It's time for our discussion segment. I would say the funny segment did wrap up quite quick, but it's time for our discussion segment. And today we're talking about, banditry, something that has plagued Nigeria for, years. And with the recent surge in peace deals between community leaders and bandits, particularly in the northern states and northwest geopolitical zone, we're asking, are these agreements a national solution or just a local quick fix? To put this into perspective, let's look at the devastating impact of banditry on our nation. Now, between 2014 and 2022, Nigeria lost over $10.3 billion to insecurity, with the northwest region being one of the hardest hit. In the same period, thousands of lives were lost and millions of people were displaced, with the northwest region accounting for over 50% of the displaced persons. The economic toll is staggering, with Nigeria's GDP growth slowed down by 1.2% due to insecurity in 2022 alone, and the northwest region experiencing a decline of 3.4% in agricultural production. The human cost is also equally alarming, with over 10,000 people killed in the northwest region between 2014 and 2022. So it's beyond just saying banditry. The numbers are speaking a lot for itself. And at the end of the day, what does this peace deal mean for the future of our nation? Would they bring the lasting peace and security, or are they just a temporary solution to a complex problem? What else could be done? What is the best practice out there? Joining me in the studio today is Dr. Yakubu Joseph, Country Director of Mission 21 and a renowned peace practitioner and researcher. Dr. Joseph has been working in Nigeria since 2015, accompanying partner organizations and providing technical support and advising peace building and security. So with him today, we're going to be discussing the implication of this peace deal and the role we can play in shaping a more secure and a more prosperous, future for Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you. Let's start with the numbers. What is your take on the level of banditry in Nigeria and how it's, I would say it's increasing on a daily basis. What's your take on it and how it's playing out?
I guess the numbers speak about the magnitude of the devastation and the impact on various sectors of the economy, of social life, and so on. Even the military, the investment from the government side in terms of response by the military, the kinetic approach to the banditry takes a lot of resources. These resources would have been used in education, providing health care, but the government has to channel it to take care, to respond to the banditry in the northwest and other insecurity incidents in the country. So this is really a big developmental issue. It's not just a security issue, it's a development issue, because it's turning the hand of the development clock, and especially for a region that is least developed, for a region that is educationally disadvantaged, for a region that faces ecological problems from climate change, desertification. So we are dealing with myriads of problems here.
Would you say that, it was being handled with kid gloves initially? Because we saw when it started surfacing gradually. And would you say if there was a different handling of the situation from the start, would have been seen a different result by now?
As a peace studies practitioner or researcher, I can tell you that the various stakeholders walked into this slowly, because it's like a new phenomenon. They're trying to understand it. Our military was really doing well in international conflict, international peacekeeping. But now to have to deal with internal crises such as banditry, which was just imagined at that time. Nobody was sure what should be the right approach, and therefore there was a need to build capacity to deal with this crisis, both on the side of the military, on the side of policymakers, even local administration like the local government, the state government, and then you need coordination. So I think it took us by surprise, and there was an underestimation of the capacity of the bandits. Nobody knew that they had the level of
sophistication,
arms that they are now wielding, and gradually, I think, with intelligence gathering, with also the scale of attacks that they were able to carry on, it became more glaring that these people are really up to no good, and you can tell that they were well prepared and well armed to the teeth. And I think now the defense authorities have a better understanding, a better handle on this situation, I can say.
When you talk about peace deal with bandits, it's just like talking about rehabilitation of Boko Haram. You know, there are lots of skepticism towards it and the level of reception towards it. What is your take on this peacekeeping? Is it truly, you know, a quick fix for this? And how can they be that, you know, level of, for lack of better words, level of, you know, peace between the perpetrators and the victims? You know, how possible is that there to be truly peace, especially owing that these bandits have hurt people, have harmed life, have ruined families? How would that acceptance come to play, putting all together?
So when you see communities trying to have some agreement with the bandits, what they're trying to pursue is what we call pragmatic peace.
Okay.
In the absence of a viable solution, and what the government is doing through the military is quite slow. It's yielding results, but of course hasn't led to drastic reduction in violence. And because of the disruptive effect of the banditry, especially on livelihoods and even on the social fabric of society, including the kidnapping, the raiding of villages, and the demand for ransom and all that, the communities have to yield somehow. And that is to go into discussion with the bandits so they can have access to their farms, because this is the season they need to clear their farms.
True.
To have access, normally they are being levied before they can access their farms, before they could harvest. They have to also pay the bandits. So now they're trying, some communities are going out of their way to reach out to the bandits to have a discussion so they can have a break. But this is not a lasting solution. And when it comes to banditry, I think you have to adopt an integrated approach. That means you don't leave any option off the table. The military option, the kinetic option is there. The judicial option is there, because also it's a question of justice. These people have carried out some atrocities. Crime against humanity, I would even put it that way. They need to face justice.
Sure.
You can actually show some clemency, and maybe through if the government steps in and becomes part of these discussions, you can actually provide some reprieve. But it's not going to be easy to do that, because the government has declared these bandits as terrorists. And therefore, this designation closes, or rather forecloses a window of opportunity to discuss or to engage with the bandits. Therefore, the communities now have to do it themselves because of that, because the government said you cannot negotiate with terrorists. And there is a wisdom in that, because when the government curves in and begins to negotiate with bandits or the terrorists, you are incentivizing this kind of behavior, and you have to operate on their own terms. It's not possible. They have broken the law. They have committed atrocious acts against the people, and they must be held accountable. And the government must also demonstrate that it is exercising its sovereign prerogative to deploy force to ensure that any insurrection, any kind of banditry is crushed. But if the government appears to be weak in exercising its sovereign prerogative, then it is encouraging other groups to come up. Because when you are dealing with bandits, you are dealing with several groups. Yeah. They are not organized and coordinated. So the group that you are negotiating with is different from another group that is not going to be part of this discussion, and they have different agenda. By the way, you also have to look at the hydra-headed nature of the whatever purposes that the bandits are pursuing, including criminal gangs who are operating as bandits, those who are ethnic militia, who are actually fighting or committing this kind of attacks because of grievances that they feel their ethnic group has suffered certain injustices. And then you have also those who have lost their livelihoods as a result of the impact of climate change, environmental degradation, and so on, and that they have found banditry to be an alternative, unfortunately, a means of livelihood. So it's so complex. And then you have transnational criminals who are also operating, and where the Sahel is quite unstable because of also the activities of these transnational criminal groups. And then you have terrorists. Also, you have extremist group who are also linking with the bandits.
So they are across board, and there's a lot to deal with. But at this point in time, where you've pointed out that the fact that the government have labeled them terrorist group, it might be unwise to negotiate with them, leaving communities to do it themselves. What are the ethical negotiations or ethical implication of communities going out to negotiate with the bandits by themselves?
There is a question of trust. One is that, can you trust them? What is the binding framework? There is no legal framework that is binding the parties to whatever agreement they have entered. And then, who is the face of the banditry? If you are dealing with one group, there are several other groups that are there. So it is a pragmatic piece of approach where the communities are just trying to get a breather. They just space for a while, but it's not a lasting solution. A lasting solution will require an integrated approach. Economic development of the region is very critical, and that is something the government must take as serious. Because if you invest in the economic development of the region, you are emptying the swamp. And what encourages young people, for example, to go into banditry will disappear. The other aspect is still the kinetic approach used by the military and the other forces is also vital to secure the communities and to disarm the bandits, because the level of sophistication of arms that they have is still not safe for the communities even after the agreement. So are they going to turn in their arms? Or are they going to keep those arms and then later maybe change their minds? So you see, this is why it is very tricky. And I believe that the critical stakeholders are looking at the development there through various lenses to see how this can be addressed, including also the need for justice and accountability.
Sure, indeed. I was going to come to that. But now, in a nation like Nigeria, where we have the critical stakeholders somewhat dragging their foot, do you see this piece still pulling through in your experience?
As I say that, from the perspective of the government, what the communities are doing is at once a welcome development, and also at the same time, something the government will look at with cautious optimism. Largely because everywhere in the world where such attempt has been made, the result has always been mixed. There has never been a successful example.
Okay.
And because of the fragmented nature of bandits, there are several groups. So one group might abide by the agreement, but several other groups will not. And then there is also the question of, what do the bandits want, and is the community offering what the bandit wants? Can the community, if the grievances also require government intervention, can the communities commit the government? So the government is also careful here that you don't just resort to militialization, or you just become a militia group just to get the government to attend to your needs. You don't want to justify violence or to encourage violence in any form or shape. Therefore, I think this is a very delicate situation for the government, as far as I can see. But for the meantime, it is positive for the communities. There will be a pause in the hostilities or in the attacks. The community might, they will get access to their farms and go about their businesses. But I can tell you, isolated attacks will continue because of the fragmented nature of the banditry. And then also, at some point, if the bandits feel they are not getting what they want, or if the root causes of banditry are not addressed, you will see a relapse. And then there will be, the violence will come back strong or stronger.
All right, finally now, before we go, I would love you to elaborate and throw light on your expectation from all of this. Over time, as one who is an expert in this field, what do you expect, what role do you expect to see play out from all the state actors, from the justice, from the judicial sector to, the security aspect, to the government and even the community? Because people always say it's safe to say the community members know these bandits because these bandits dwell among them. So what are your expectations moving forward in the fight against, banditry, from the community to the state government and federal government to the justice, the judicial sector, everybody? What are your expectations moving forward to see that we have, peace in Nigeria?
I would like to see a more knowledge-driven approach in the fight against banditry, and to see more coordination among stakeholders. One, intelligence gathering is very important, is key, because if you have good intelligence, you will be able to understand the DNA of banditry in the Northwest. And I think that this is an aspect that there is so much, they are experts in this field. One of the things that we have actually developed in the last, I would say, 15 years or so, is the expertise in security studies. In the past, we had scholars from the West who actually are called the Nigeria experts. But now we have homegrown scholars who are studying the DNA of this of banditry and terrorism. And I think the security policy makers need to listen to them, give them opportunity to provide some insight into what is going on. We also need to see interagency collaboration among the security agencies, so that when you have intelligence, you can share this intelligence and map an approach how you're going to deal with the problem. And then government needs to also understand that you cannot just use a kinetic approach to address this matter. This is something that has been said time and again. Look at the economic or the development issues within the region. Because when we talk about peace, peace has to do with so many elements. Sure. People's access to basic necessities of life, amenities, education, healthcare, roads, and so on and so forth. And then we need to strengthen the security architecture. Sure. Because I think that the porosity within the security architecture is worrisome. That you find a large number of people can be abducted from a community and be taken across and not be traced. So the rapid response is not there. Sometimes it takes days before even you see a semblance of response or an attempt to rescue. And then I think sometimes also the handling of sensitive security information. In the age of social media, I think we ought to be very careful. It's not everything that the government or the security forces are doing that will come to light. That sometimes if you are making an attempt to rescue, you don't even announce. There has to be a covert operation, But I think there is so much, to appeal to the political, oppositions and so on. People are so quick to come out and say, this is what we're doing, and then divulging sensitive or critical intelligence. And I think we need to be careful. but most importantly, development of the region. Look at the environmental issues. Climate change is real. Economic development, youth development. The government, federal government, is working on a youth policy, youth conference. I hope it's not going to be a talk show where some group of youths will just come just to get the allowances they will be asked to sign at the end of the conference. No,
Right.
I hope that we will have really a blueprint to tackling the issues that affect our youth population, which is growing astronomically.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Yakubu Joseph. It's good to have you with us this morning. It's been, I would say, a very informative, very informative, short 30 minutes discussion this morning. And we hope that, you know, a lot will be done to fix our nation and broker peace with the bandits, so that every Nigerian would be able to move from one part of the country feeling safe and secure, so that our farmers could go to the farm, harvest their products, get their bumper harvest that they've put in the sweat for, feeling safe and feeling secure. I always ask this question: how safe do you feel as a Nigerian in your home? These are the questions and these are the days we're looking forward to in this country. Thank you so much, Dr. Yakubu, for joining us. In case you're just joining us, Dr. Yakubu is the country director of Mission 21 and a renowned peace practitioner and researcher. So do well to catch up on our live stream or on our YouTube channel to listen to the interview segment again if you just missed it out.